All right. So when is it going to go up? Let's see. Is it wait? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first AI and Data Leadership Talk. I'm Rob Richardson, your host, and with me is Khalil Alamin from the co-founder of Nichefire, one of my friends, and honored to have him on. We're going to talk about we're going to call our first one from the Orange Bowl to AI. Talk about how my man came from the Orange Bowl, and then now is leading a AI startup that is predicting cultural trends, and it is helping brands move at the speed of culture. So, Khalil, good to have you on, brother.
Rob, I appreciate you, man. I reached behind me to grab some of my trophies, right? My rings. Um, but yeah, man, just happy to be here and appreciate you having me today.
No, well, it's good to have you on, so you really have a very different career from a lot of people within the AI community. They look at you, they might see a football player. You have been a football player, but you're a lot more than that. But I love to really get an idea from you about how you got into this and what you learned from being an athlete that might apply to actually being leading and being in a startup. So, how did your experience going to the Orange Bowl, being a D1 athlete here, how did that shape who you are as an entrepreneur right now?
Oh man, it's a great question because I struggled with finding that new identity after football. It took a while for me to really get to where we are now. I think the athletics, they get you prepared for a lot of things: adversity, teamwork, problem solving, all that good stuff. And I think that naturally, and luckily for me, I was blessed to have family with entrepreneurs, and my father was an entrepreneur as well. So once I seen that football was no longer going to be able to be in my life, entrepreneurship was almost the immediate idea that I had. The problem though was I wasn't ready to really go work for like a family business. I didn't want to work for my dad, and I did though anyway. But I guess like just kind of having that entrepreneurial upbringing and seeing my father grow his business and build his business, um, it led me to see if I could get passionate about something else other than football. So my background in college was in marketing. Marketing was something that I always loved. I always said that I wanted to create commercials if I didn't
Yeah.
go to the NFL. So
So
um,
hold on for that second, because that's kind of fascinates me. Like again, it is fascinating. You went from football to AI, like I said, the Orange Bowl to AI. But I want to take you back a little bit because you kind of answered it, but I want to hear a little more specifically. So, what did you want to be as a kid when you grew up, and what did your parents want you to be?
I think just like any other kid, I had a lot of ideas on what I wanted to be. But around 7, 8-ish is when that idea around football got implanted in my head. I was bigger than all the other kids when I started playing football. I was so big that I was 7, I had to play with the 10 and 11 and 12 year olds. So throughout my life, it was always something that people told me, you can play football, you should play football. So it was something that I grew to love. And
Yeah,
I became passionate about it. So football was that first thing. I wanted to go to the NFL. It was everything for me from that moment. I mean, I just became very passionate about that. So
yeah.
I would say football and being a football player was like my first career path. And even as I got older, as I understood how much more challenging it would to be a football player, I didn't care. It
Yeah,
was something that I was putting all my eggs in that basket.
yeah.
So athletics was really like that first place where I became passionate around something.
And you obviously were successful, right? I mean, becoming a D1 athlete is no small feat. But making that transition, I think, from realizing that this original path that you had, I understand this as a person who ran for public office, right? And things didn't go according to what I thought and what I planned for, what I worked for. So I can just speak for myself. During some of that time, I went through a little bit of an identity crisis and trying to figure out who I was and how I was going to contribute to the world, because this is what I saw as what I've been preparing for. Mm-hmm. How did you make that transition? Because I think it's a key kind of principle to learn from, when you believe that you found your life mission and then it doesn't align with what you thought. Like, how did you make that transition from sports to finding your next path before you even knew? Because it sounds like you didn't know it was entrepreneurship.
So, I actually was able to sign a free agent contract. I thought that the dream was real.
Ooh,
and
okay.
When I got cut, that's when the reality kind of set in that I have to find something else. I think for me, what I was looking for were those signals that made me so bullish on football, right? Where could I get passionate? Where could I make a lot of money, right? Where can I still have those financial dreams that I had that would come from being a Hall of Famer in the NFL, right? So because my father was an entrepreneur, as I was saying before, it was a natural for my family to kind of embrace me, because I was going through a lot of depression. Right? It's hard when you go from playing athletics to do something else. It's like, what else do you do? It's like, what's he say on the longest yard? You teach me football? Like, that's how that's how my brain was, man. It was like everything about football. So I think it was really just kind of saying, okay, what can I be passionate about? And when I started working with my father, I started to actually appreciate waking up early, going into the office, going to meetings with him, learning how to estimate. He was a landscape contractor, so learning to estimate and doing that. I fell in love with that grind, and it made me feel like I was playing ball again, because it was structured. It was every day the same thing, but a little different. You do it. So I think it for me was looking for that passion again. What could I get passionate about?
Yeah, so obviously it wasn't an easy transition. I'm sure there were lessons you pulled from work as being an athlete, but thinking about that transition from entrepreneurship, because you started with your father, and then you obviously made a transition to do this on your own. Like, what was the moment you decided that I want to be an entrepreneur? Like, what was that moment?
Well, me and my dad was at an impasse. He had his own dreams and things he wanted for his own business. And at that time, my life was changing. I was expecting my first child. And I decided that I wanted to go see what corporate America was like. I thought it was a little bit more stable, and it is. And so I went that route. But what I quickly found out was that I missed that freedom, and I missed the opportunity to kind of learn at my own pace and things like that. So I immediately started looking for other ways to kind of start something up on the side while I was actually working. So it was a slow process of just kind of failing at these smaller businesses, doing, one-off like home-based businesses, and trying to start my own cleaning services. Like, I did all types of different things. But that let me know, like, it made me feel good when I was doing those things. And again, when you're in depression, when you can do something positive that makes you feel good, you should probably keep doing that.
No, there's research on that, right? The best thing you can do when you're going through a run is to do something and actually or help others. You probably should do both, right? That's the quickest way to get you out of your rut.
Exactly.
But so you made this, and you came to the idea of coming with Nichefire, working with you and your co-founder. But it wasn't even a smooth ride when the idea came to conceptions. I think a lot of people have this false belief that I come up with this great idea, money falls from the sky because I am so brilliant and people just love my idea, right? And they just see what you have, what you two have built now, to see that you just raised $2.6 million. Congratulations.
It's actually three of us, Rob. It's three. I don't want to leave out
three. I didn't know the other. I didn't know. Okay, who's the third? I know Michael. Who's the other?
Stephen Brown. So Stephen is our COO and CFO. So you guys will see a lot more Stephen this year for sure. But I think.
But I'll say this really quick. Like, there was a transition, and I asked the question. Talk about the transition between the vision and the reality, because there was this. Bernard Rustin said this to Martin Luther King. They were together looking at a mountain one day, and Dr. King said, "The mountain is so." They were looking at this mountain. The mountain looks so clear. He said, never mistake a clear vision for a short path. Right? Mm-hmm. So you've had many paths that's led to Nichefire, including having to do many things. Talk about how did that experience in terms of having this move from a side hustle to a full grown startup business. Tell people about the process in between the vision and reality. How did that look?
So me and Michael met around 2015-ish. Into 2015, at a speed networking event. And it was a terrible event. It was a bunch of network marketing and Mary Kay and, it was, I was working for a Xerox company selling copiers, and Michael was selling software consultancy. So it was like none of our customers are at this place. So we got coffee. Found out that Michael was a marketer as well. And we literally started an agency like within a week. So I think like that path started there. We brought Stephen on that year to help us with our finances and our taxes. And we all felt that we had this like collective understanding of just wanting to be successful and doing like some cool stuff. So Michael had this idea to build out a tool that could analyze, competitive. It just was a competitive analysis tool, and all three of us just decided, like, hey, let's stop with the agency and let's kind of shift gears to do this. So, I mean, we stand here today as like this 10-year overnight success, really, because we started off in 2017. We had a specific use case around competitive analysis and leveraging AI and social media data to provide those type of insights on your competitors. But the product, it was a good product. We got customers, but it wasn't sticky enough in the market. And we came at a crossroads where, like you're saying, like the vision is clear, but it doesn't mean that it's, going to be successful. That's kind of where we were at with that product, because we were able to get a very large bank to be one of our first customers. But we couldn't get a lot of other customers going with that particular product. So it was around 2020, right before the pandemic, where we actually ended up pivoting the business to cultural listening. And that's when the idea kind of took off for us. So along that way, though, I mean, we built the company. We had, a very good strategy of land and expand. So we landed into this big bank, and we just tried to sell to as many different departments as we possibly could to keep the business afloat. But, we weren't paying ourselves really.
And that's a key lesson you got to learn. Like, I'll just hold up there, because really you're talking about bootstrapping, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the reality for a lot of founders, particularly founders in the Midwest, particularly founders that are of color. Is just the reality, right? Mm-hmm. But the bootstrapping you had to do, like, you weren't paying yourself, like, and I understand this concept too, right? It took years, right, for you to build this business to get to where you are now. And people need to know that. So, like, how did you keep yourself going when you had those grinds where you couldn't see it? Because you had to, if I understand it, you were Ubering, you were doing whatever it took while you have a business up, just to be able to pay yourself, because the business, you were giving money to the business, not yourself.
Well, I mean, I had a child as well, so it was a lot of pressure to provide still.
You have a patient wife too. Good.
So what we had to do was really figure out what was the most important, right? We paid our employees, and we decided to just, figure out ways to, if we needed something, we could depend on the business for that, but it wasn't consistent. So you had to have that consistent income. And for me, it was like, okay, you can go get another job, 9 to 5, but that's just going to eat up 8-9 hours of your day. And then you still have to, kind of work on your passion after hours or what have you. So my thought was like, okay, well, you got these gigs that you can do. Let me go try and do some of these, because these are more flexible. I can work for a couple hours, take a meeting, do this. So it actually started with like delivering groceries first is what I did. And then it turned to rideshare, and I drove people around. But then the pandemic, pandemic hit, and it was like, I'm going to deliver food because delivering food paid the most. So I was driving and doing ride shares probably about 45, 50 hours a week. But it was in pockets where I could still focus on a client meeting if we had that, or my prospecting if I had to do that. So the gig economy really provided me the flexibility to stay focused in my business, because when it's all said and done, I just needed cash. I didn't want to go into someone else's organization and use them for cash while they're expecting me to be, all-star football player Khalil at my business. I felt like I wanted to be that for Nichefire, and I just needed something to just kind of keep the lights on. So Uber was that way. Instacart, like stuff like that, was what the route I went. And then the nicer you are to people, they'll tip you and stuff like that. So it was just a way where I seen that you can leverage tech in order to make some money and keep the lights on, and
and you do what you had to do to make it happen. Like most paths don't end exactly with venture capital funding launch. It's really about finding a business and finding a way to sustain, and that's what you did. Now I want to talk a little bit about Nichefire and a little bit of expertise in terms of what you do, and then I want to discuss a little bit of AI. And by the way, if anybody has comments, let us know. I believe actually Nichefire is hiring for a data engineer, right?
Yeah, we're hiring.
Yes. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but let's talk a little bit about Nichefire. So, because for our listeners who may not be familiar, can you explain what Nichefire does and how it uses AI to help businesses?
Yes. That's super important. So Nichefire is a cultural listening technology, and we leverage many different data sources, online data sources. So you got, social media, search, forums and blogs, things like that. But the idea is that there's these conversations or these pockets of relevancy that live out there in these digital spaces. So we use AI and these data channels to identify the culture, the common language, the common themes, the common behaviors that exist across different topics, groups of people, and so on. So the AI is being used to analyze millions upon millions of different data points across many different data channels to provide businesses that vein of relevancy, really. So being able to tap into culture will help a business understand the top flavors around a particular recipe, or
so when you say it'll help businesses define culture, how do you define culture?
That's a good question. So culture can be defined really by, you got those aspects of culture that kind of like group people together, right? So multicultural would be like race, demographics, things like that. But then you also have areas like politics and other things that kind of influence the people. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So culture is that, right? There's a vein of commonalities that exist between groups of people that really govern their behaviors, how they think, what they're doing. So the Nichefire tool is able to help you tap into what that is in order to make better products, make better decisions, and move within that vein of relevancy. So again, brands that have the need to be tapped into what's going on within the groups that they serve, they want to understand the culture of those groups, of those topics, of those products, so that they can sell them better or position a particular campaign better, or even build a product from it. So
no, I think it's because it moves so fast because of technology, right? I'd say there is upsides and there's challenges, right? So we move fast, and sometimes we as humans can move fast to make decisions that are irrational, angry, or we can do things that are, for the good. But, it's so we have the power of this tool which is, social media and everything else, where we're having conversations and the speed of culture, like you said, moves quickly. I define culture as inherent, like everybody has some attachment to their culture, which means, like, I know this is sometimes a controversial topic with everything people are talking about nowadays, but I'm gonna say this, and I got this from a book from David Brooks that just came out. It's a great book. It's How to Know a Person, and he has this line that says, one of the great fallacies is to make culture everything, and it's also another great fallacy to say culture is nothing. Right? Culture is part of every one of our experiences. Like, we come as a collection of our community and our ancestors. Hard stop. Right? That's a part of our story, and if you don't understand what part of the story you are, it's hard to know what's next. And of course, for brands, it's hard to really understand people without understanding the culture, which can be many things you said, but it really comes down to your community, how you were raised, people around you. And it's a collection of that. And that does affect how you think. And so brands do need to appreciate that, right? If they're really going to market to a very diverse, very fast moving world. So yeah, if you can talk about like Nichefire in terms of how you actually if you have an example of like what makes your social listening tools different from others, because I know there are a lot of social listening tools. Like, if you can talk about the differentiations and how do you sell yourself as a unique proposition when you're talking to brands?
Yeah, well, so social listening is, the ability to look into conversations that are happening on the social channels, right? What Nichefire is a cultural listening platform. So we're listening for the common behaviors, the commonalities that are existing between these individuals or these products or what have you. So again, how it differentiates is that a social listening tool, you need to understand the language to get them to work. They work off of Boolean logic. So in order to understand a particular conversation around, smart devices or football, you have to understand those common terms and keywords. With culture, and when these brands are on the outside looking in, they don't know what those words are. So they're trying to use their tools now, the social listening tools now, in order to tap into culture, but it's causing them to take, 80 to 100 hours to find, dive deeper into those different topics. So the differentiating point for the Nichefire platform is that you don't have to understand, you don't need to have those keywords to find the culture. Nichefire is going to help you understand what those words are. It's going to help you understand that Gen Alpha is talking about skippity toilet, or that, people that take GLP-1 drugs are having upset, reactions to chocolate, right? So again, with the social listening tool, you would have to understand that those conversations are already happening. And then, so it's more reactive. Nichefire is more in that white space and that ground level of a research strategy to help find out what someone should be looking into online.
Got it. All right. Well, we're taking any questions folks might have. So Nichefire, when you talk about how you've actually substantively helped a business, can you give like some examples of how you've helped the business have some insights using cultural listening?
Yeah. One good story is with Kraft Heinz. So Kraft Heinz came to us and they seen that there were a lot of Japanese restaurants like popping up all over America. And they wanted to understand the impact of this Japanese culture on the American palate, really. So we told them hey, well, let's look into anime as a signal to understand Japanese culture, and to see if we could find any unique, flavors or anything like that would kind of matter for you guys. So during this time, we did the research. It was like the anime, convention in LA, and we've seen a lot of fans of the animes sharing recipes and their favorite foods from the mangas or the anime cartoons that they like the most. And one of those signals we were to pick up on was a street food that was being offered. It was takoyaki. And takoyaki is like a fried octopus ball. And a lot of people were talking about how excited they were to try it or have it, or they wish that it was in their grocery store. So the signal is like, hey, this could be that next frozen, Japanese cuisine that ends up being, popular, right? Well,
Right.
Kraft saw that the sauce that you put on it is ketchup and Worcestershire. So they wrapped up, whipped up some recipes within their partner kitchens, and they started testing that out. And if it continues to go well, it takes time for products to get to the shelf in that world. But if it goes well, that will be one of many, Asian inspired sauces or flavors that they would put out on the market. So, that could be, $50 to $100 million product, all because they were curious and understanding how the Japanese culture was impacting our taste buds here in America.
Right. So as we talk more about AI, and of course, if you have any questions for sure for Khalil, let us know. As we talk about AI and how customers and how the culture feels about it, I think I just saw some research today that shows a lot of people distrust AI and a lot of customers distrust AI. I think that came from some of your insights. How do you advise businesses that I know some are just they're just leaping into it, some are nervous about it. How should they think about it? And how are you as a company leveraging AI, knowing that there's some resistance from some people when it comes to
mm-hmm. I think for the masses, like some people think that AI is just like this magic pill that you take and it just does everything for you. You don't have to do anything. And that's not how you should be thinking about artificial intelligence, especially in our space, right? Data and analytics and doing that type of work. You got to think about that human element that it takes to do these jobs manually. All we're doing is making sure that instead of reading through millions upon millions of posts, we're using AI to kind of take place of that human element there. So it's supposed to advance you as an individual. It's not supposed to take away or take away from you as an individual or the job that you have to do. It's built to help you do more, be more efficient, right? Yeah. Get more work done. So I think I really challenge a lot of people. It was crazy over the holidays. You had so many people talking around dinner about AI because it's very, it's a very popular subject right now. But I think that a lot of people have to understand that it's there to improve what you're doing. If you're looking at it to help you write better or do tasks that are very important but takes time and might be a little bit monotonous for you, AI is perfect for those types of situations.
Especially though, like I want to make this point, you have a level of expertise. Michael has a level of expertise. The co-founder, Stephen, I believe, has a level of expertise. And when I say AI helps one do, if you have a level of expertise, it can take your level of expertise and take you to the moon if you know how to analyze, what to ask, how to approach, and then you can use it as a thought partner, as what we like to call artistic intelligence. So the fact is you're specific in thinking about and understanding culture, how to approach different cultures, how to ask the right questions, and not depending on AI to know that part. Instead, you would use that contextual, human-centered approach to then use AI to come up with other analysis you may not have thought of. But if you do the reverse, I think that's where we get into trouble, right? And
exactly.
So so that I agree with you. There's somebody has a question here that I do not know how to say his name, so I don't want to butcher it. But he says he's an anime fan, and he's curious to know, how does Nichefire identify and analyze trends in niche communities like anime? That's the question he had. So
we're using natural language processing to go through like all those different channels and cross-reference and seeing if we can pick the signals up across those other channels. But at a very high level, just using natural language processing. So a fan goes onto Reddit or Twitter or TikTok, and they are talking or raving about some type of, and again, within the anime community, we were seeing like sharing recipes or the foods and the culture from the Japanese cartoons is what they were sharing. So again, with that natural language processing, the ability to kind of see similar conversations and things like that with the AI is how we're able to take those conversations, cluster them, run sentiment analysis, all of that stuff. So it's pretty sophisticated, but at a very high level, that's how we do it. Vishwanta, I think that's how you say it. Vishwanta.
Yeah. You're better than me, so I didn't want to jack them up, but hopefully we got it right. So,
yeah.
So I think about what trends do you see then coming forward in terms of how AI or other cultural trends that businesses and consumers should be prepared for?
There's so many. I think it really depends on the verticals and what type of industries you're looking into. But I think for us right now, since we cater to a lot of food and bev companies, functional health, functional food benefits are starting to become very, very trending, very talked about within the culture. It just so happened that we were a part of the Food for Medicine convention today at 1819, right? So that's another trend that is very prevalent, and I think is something that food and bev companies should probably really be thinking into. How do we make sure we talk about the functional health benefits of the foods that we are putting out there on the market? And then I think lastly, I seen this when I was doing some research around the impacts of inflation. It was that consumers were moving to private label and to store brand products. However, they would rave about these influencer-led products that were being promoted on social media. So Feastables, Prime energy drinks. You started to see a lot of these influencers coming up with their own, whether it was coffee or smoothie or collabs with food companies. Fast forward from when I did that project till now, you see the Lunchable competitor that Jake Paul and KSI and all those, Mr. Beast came out with. Mr. Beast has chocolate. There's so many different, there's a coffee brand, there's so many different brands that are starting to thrive that are these influencer-led brands. So I would say those three different trends are ones that I'd call out, but there's so many, Rob. We could have a whole hour conversation, hour conversation about it.
About influencer, I'd like to talk about that, influencer-led brands. What do you think with whatever's going to happen with TikTok? How do you think that might influence it in the short term?
So we still really don't know what's going to happen with TikTok, right? We see that the government's jumping in and turning it into some good old Facebook social media drama. Personally, I feel that creators and these trendsetters and tastemakers that are driving the activity on platforms like TikTok and sending those waves throughout the world, I think they'll just move to another platform where they can continue to monetize, but at the same time create. Now, personally, my hypothesis is I think live streaming. I think a live stream is going to be that new place for these creators to go in, create, monetize, and build their list outside of the live stream and continue to kind of thrive in that same way. But there's going to be a mixture of in real life, online activations that are going to happen with these tastemakers if TikTok goes away that I'm really interested in keeping a pulse on. I wrote about it in my newsletter, right? Of some of those top areas where I feel brands should be thinking about right now as far as if TikTok is taken from us permanently. So you guys check out my newsletter. You can read more about that there.
Yeah, we'll make sure to put it in the links for sure. No, of course. Hey, plug away. This is what this is for. It's for you to plug away, man. So definitely plug. So, all right. So for those who might not be technically inclined or think they're not, what are some tools just to get started in AI that help you that you use that help you keep up on things?
I'm gonna just state the obvious. ChatGPT is probably the easiest way to get a feel for the large language models. I mean, there's so much you can do with ChatGPT. You could spend a year learning it and still not know everything you need to know on ChatGPT.
Well, with ChatGPT, is there anything you do to help you? Any other tools you've used to help you navigate ChatGPT better? I mean, that could be a really helpful thing too.
Absolutely. I'm always on LinkedIn. So any free guides, prompt education, prompt webinars, things like that. I love to try to go to, or at least attend, or try to get the transcript and use the transcript as a exercise in ChatGPT. You literally can take a transcript, put it in ChatGPT, ask it to do something for you based off the transcript, and it can speed up that analysis or that learning, right? So yep. I would say that, and then YouTube as well, tapping into some other creators and other people that are better at some of those unique aspects as far as like using the API or creating your own GPT. So, I mean, there's so much resources out there on ChatGPT. And then last year, I downloaded Perplexity during the Super Bowl. They had a big Super Bowl commercial, like the best Super Bowl commercial in my opinion. So I was like, I'm going to buy that because it's like, you know, but Perplexity is a very, very good tool for research. And my function with
it is. It's a very good tool for research to be.
My function in research, or excuse me, at Nichefire is sales and marketing. So using Perplexity for pre meetings with leads, or understanding a particular problem that a company could have, it's very powerful, and I will highly suggest viewers to go check that out as well. But really, it just, you know, kind of, you got to sit back and think, you know, what is your biggest use case? Like, what do you need to get done? And you could literally ask ChatGPT, what AI should I try to use to do X, Y, Z? And it'll just tell you. It'll tell you to leave ChatGPT and go somewhere else. Right? Now, it won't tell you to leave ChatGPT. It'll be on the list somewhere. But
yeah. They got something you can do with ChatGPT. A new feature that I just saw come out that I haven't used yet that I'm going to use is apparently now there's tasks within ChatGPT. So like, I'll try to give you some practical examples. Let's say if you're trading Bitcoin, because people might be doing that, right? You can have it send you the price of Bitcoin 3 times a day, just to remind you, right, to actually do stuff. So I think that's one example that can be used, and usually you can literally Google how to use tasks within ChatGPT, and it'll help you. Like, I've also seen another useful application. If you have the paid version, you're able to use it where you can, I actually can have an interactive conversation with someone that speaks another language, right? If someone speaks Spanish and I speak English, I can literally say, you know, I'm talking to Khalil. He only speaks Spanish. Everything he says back to me, you say it to me in English, and everything I say in English, you say back to Spanish. And if you have good Wi-Fi, that's the caveat. It could flow with the conversation back and forth for sure. So I've used that. I also use Otter. That's another tool that I use. That you could take and record things, and I'll go to conferences, I'll record it, I'll download it. Then I think here's the trick, right? I also take notes about key things that I think, like high level, like I want to know about this, I want to know about that. And then I repurpose that into Otter to give me really good content. And then I again repurpose that to ChatGPT to come up with other different type of concepts. So like you can really help, it really accelerates learning to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. Somebody's got another question down here. Durante Smith says your product is intriguing. How does the application apply to small businesses, and is it cost effective for a small business, or is it more for enterprise or large companies?
No, great question. It's more for enterprise and large companies right now. How it's priced, I don't think smaller businesses would find the same value out of the insights that we can provide. But the larger enterprises can. But I do think that this year we'll have contents and guides and things like that that are just purely valuable to just society that we'll be putting out there. And as we grow, we'll start figuring out how do we support that small to medium business vertical as well.
Yeah, we can. He's going to have a. You can go. Obviously follow Khalil, follow Nichefire. They have some links and free resources that you can use as a small business yourself, right? So there's a lot of things there's a lot of things that are really out there that are very helpful and actually free at a time that we've never seen. Like, information is more available than it's ever been. Mm-hmm. We just have to know where to find it. This is why we're having these AI and data leadership talks to really have an opportunity for people to learn more, to grow more. All right, so I know you're actually hiring for a data scientist, correct? Mm-hmm. What do you look for? Data engineer, excuse me. You're looking for a data engineer, but for that, people can look up the description for what you're looking for exactly for the data engineer. Mm-hmm. I'd like to know high level, as a teammate, someone that you want to work with, what do you look for in an employee? What are the most important skill sets? 'Cause some people here might want to apply, so that'd be helpful for them to know.
I think one thing, in just very high level, is going to be character. I think that's a no-brainer for any job that you're going into, and then making sure that they fit into the culture, right? So startup world is a lot different than what a lot of people might be ready for. So making sure that the individual is, there are intangibles that you have to see from an individual that will kind of work out within a startup culture. So, I mean, again, like, working a lot, right?
All the time.
Hours, just working a lot, right? And, not having so much structure, but having to have that self-led initiative as an employee, I think, is another thing that we look into as well. But then overall, just skill sets. And we have our data scientists and our CTO really leading those conversations with individuals. But we're really looking for, that character, some of those intangibles that you really can't put in a resume. Like, you have to talk to a person and ask those questions and hear how they, overcame certain situations. And to be honest, we want to hear how individuals like got stuck and didn't overcome the situation. And what did you do after that, right? So I think that it's just really kind of boiling down to aligning with that culture. Would you fit in? Do you have the credentials, right? You got to have, the education and all that stuff. Can you actually code and things of that nature?
There's that. You got to actually be able to do the job.
You got to have some skills. But yeah, man, I think those are the main things.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask some wrap up questions. They're kind of like, that I like to ask. So why was it you that started Nichefire? I know you co-founded it, but why was it you as a co-founder? Why you?
As I mentioned, it's, three-headed monster. So when Michael, Steven, and I really sat down and said that we wanted to do this, it was all because we all complemented each other very well, and we all want to be super successful. So I think that it was just like, you can't get any better than that, right? You meet a guy from one week to the next, and now we got this startup where we're raising money, venture money, and stuff like that. Like, you can't get any better than that with the story, right? So I think it was just like, us leaning into the fact that we worked very well together. We all complemented each other. It was like no one of us has like the same skills. We all have like different skills. And, I just think it was just, I don't know, man. Like, it was just, it felt like it was what we needed to do. And we all got on this train and just kept moving it. And when the train stopped, we got out with our foot and start moving it, right?
Yeah.
And you go through enough adversity with people, it brings you closer together, right?
Yeah.
We've had many, many long nights and, ramen and boiled eggs. So that kind of brings you together, you know what I mean? So I think for me, it was that. It was the camaraderie that we were able to develop, and we fight and we have disagreements, but it's like it never tore us apart.
Yeah.
We don't see that with multiple founders often.
No, you don't. That's quite amazing.
Yeah, we don't
I actually think that's worth diving into.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about resolving the conflicts that keeps you focused and not fighting?
I approach this like a football team, right? Sometimes you have to address things. Sometimes things have to be addressed. Sometimes they don't. And knowing when do you address those things and knowing when you don't. And then, having a village around you, right? We got advisors that we can go to and ask, hey, this is happening, or how do we talk about this? So really just understanding that the goal is to be successful and that any type of turbulence has to be rectified, but sometimes time will fix it, right? You don't have to fix everything. You just have to fix the things that will make you not win the game, right?
Yeah.
And I think we took that approach, and sometimes we may have let things go that turned into something bigger down the road, but we all worked together in making sure that we were going to be successful and like making sure that that's the main goal. Because, you're only human. You're going to fight. You're going to have disagreements.
Absolutely. I think people need to understand that, like, conflict is okay. And it's part of the process when you learn how to deal with it constructively and embrace that it's going to be part of the process for every single relationship that you're in, period, hard stop. Can you think of a time that you failed and you learned the most from that failure or lesson?
So our first customer was a marketing agency in Boston, and they were paying us $200 a month, and we were so happy to have that customer.
You said $200 a month? Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were going to say something big enough. You said $200. I thought, did you get a zero wrong? Like,
no, it was like $250 a month. They were getting a lot out of us, right?
Yeah.
But it gave us exposure to some really big brands in the Boston area. And so, and this is when we had an MVP, when we first started. And Facebook did a bot sweep. And for whatever reason, it turned off our application. And they had turnover in the agency. Agencies always got turnover, right? There's always a new person coming in. So the new person comes in and they're like, what's this crap? It doesn't even work. And they literally just cut our water off. They just was like, no more. Like, they didn't want to give us a chance or whatever. And it was the harsh reality of losing that, $250 a month to help you understand how unforgiving the market could be. And I think that set us up for success. And, we sit in the office and, luckily we had activity, but maybe a day later, we got an email from our largest customer at the time that they wanted to move forward, which was like a $60,000 a year engagement, not $250 a year. So when we got into that account, we were like, hey, we're going to put all our eggs in this basket and make sure that we grow this account to, $1 million a year, like whatever it was, right? We said, but losing that one customer for $250 helped us understand the importance of customer success and being active in the accounts and understanding how to ask more from your customer when you're not getting enough from them and all that stuff. So I think that might have been a really early lesson we had to learn.
No, that's a good one. All right. If the last 5 years of your life as an entrepreneur was a chapter, what would that chapter be about?
Dang. That chapter of the last 5 years, it had to be about the grind, man. I think it's cool to be an entrepreneur, right? Like, you can get on Instagram, you can get a gold chain, you can put on. But I think that what people forget is that, where's that sacrifice at, right? How much are you going to grind to get to where you're trying to go? Are you going to try to go after customers that people say that you can't get? And if you get that customer, how will you support them, right? So I think that last chapter for me would be about that grind, man, and just being relentless. I don't know the name of what the chapter would be, but it'd be like Rambo mixed with Limitless, mixed with some other movie around tech, right? But it had to be something about the grind and just staying consistent and doing the things that aren't Instagram worthy, right? It don't look cool on Instagram to show up every day and send 150 emails. That don't look cool, right? That's not cool. So
that's the grind. It's a matter of the amount of reps you could put in. I tell this to, a lot of my employees, my staff, and some of them understand it, and some of them starting to learn it. Like, this is about the reps. That's all. Like, it is, and you got to just put it in. You got to put yourself out, be uncomfortable, keep following up, because until it's no, it's a possible yes. So we got to keep running. And somebody, like, out of that 150, you only need 2 or 3 to convert. Mm-hmm. 150 aren't going to convert, but if you get 5 to convert, 5 might be all you need, right? So it's just a matter of reps to get in. So, all right. So we talked about the past 5 years. Let's talk about a year from now. We're talking from a year from now. What are we celebrating with Nichefire and Khalil?
With Nichefire, a year from now, we're celebrating a tremendous revenue milestone that we're trying to reach. Actually, we're celebrating at the beginning of next year. We're celebrating Let's
say the milestone. What's the milestone we're celebrating? Because we're gonna put this out in the universe. That's gonna happen. Let's go.
The goal is 2.2, but I honestly think that we'd be looking at 3 to 4 million. We can.
Okay. All right. We're gonna be looking at 3 to 4 million in gross revenue or net revenue. Which one?
Let's say net.
All right. Let's go. We're gonna be talking about 3 to 4 million in net revenue. We're gonna talk about it again. We're gonna have the anniversary, and then at MidwestCon 2026, we're going to be talking about all the things you guys did there. And, of course, you were a speaker at 2024. We hope to have you again at 2025.
Absolutely.
Final question for you, and then we'll let's go to this comment, really. Caitlin said your story reminds me of the statistic that 90% of startup founders are quitting around the time when they turn the corner, with 20% failing within the first year, 50% more failing within 5 years. So your case shows that hanging in there no matter what does pay off.
I mean, I agree 100%. Kat, I appreciate that. There's so many times where people told us or looked at us, oh, what are you guys doing? Or how's this going to pan out for you? And I was talking today, and I was telling someone that we had to really leave the city to get put on, right? We had to leave the country.
That's how it always works.
We had to leave the country, right? We had to go to a group that was formed in Scotland and talk with people from Europe and England to really get our business going. And it was just 3 stubborn dudes that refused to quit.
Yep.
Because we just knew that we were on the right track. We just had to figure it out.
Yep. As much as I love my city, I think what we have a great challenge with is that we don't lift up our entrepreneurs at the beginning. We like to come in when they're already successful and celebrate them then. But I'm like, thank you. But we got to figure out ways to help the innovators in the beginning. But we let other people do that, then say, yeah, they're from our city. But no, we need the help at the beginning. Right. And so I hope we start understanding that mindset. Part of why I started MidwestCon is that I think we need to be connected to other Midwest cities and other places and have outside people realize the genius we have here. So I obviously promote the people here locally, but also bring in others from the outside and network with others across the Midwest and some of the country, because we don't invest in our people enough and we don't see our potential until others do. And I think that's a really big problem for us as a community. If we're talking real about it, right? And we just do real talk, because this is disruption. I don't mince words. You know me. I mean, I love everybody, but love also resides in the truth. All right. So, final question. This is a hard one, so I'm preparing you for it. What's an important truth you have that very few people agree with you on?
Important truth that I have that people don't agree with me on. Wow, you got me stumped with that one. Dang, man.
All right, I'll ask you another question to wrap up then. All right, so I'll let you know that. You got to follow up with that question. It's a hard one on purpose. All right. So, what does success look like for you?
Success for me is waking up every morning and waking up every morning with that feeling of knowing that everything is taken care of. Right. Kids are good, finances are good, happiness, all that stuff is good. It's not a dollar amount on the success. It's not a car or monetary thing. For me, it's a feeling, right? When you can wake up and you don't have that on your chest, you don't have that on your back, and your brain is clear enough to think about how you can impact the world in a positive way. Because sometimes we get so busy that we wake up and we're right to whatever we are obsessing about. That's not right in our life, whether it's not the right job, not the right amount of money in your bank account, not the right car you want or whatever. Sometimes we wake up and have those pressures on us all the way. Success for me is waking up and not having that. It's waking up and just how you feel on vacation when you wake up that first day. Not the last day of vacation, that first day of vacation. That's success for me.
I hear you. Well, you're going to get there, but I'll tell you, you'll only get there if you enjoy the present, because you've already had a lot of success, right? And it's easy to get to the point where you're like, well, when you get to that goal, you're 3 to 4 million. The next goal is 10. Nothing wrong with that, but you got to enjoy that you got to 3 to 4 million. And you've been blessed to do something that most founders have not done. You guys have raised $2.6 million. So that's also, yes, you have pressure on yourself to perform what's next, but also appreciate the fact that the journey you've already done has been quite incredible. And it's been an honor to see what you've done, and look forward to seeing what you and Nichefire, Michael and Stephen do in the future. And thank you for being on our first inaugural AI and Data Talk Leadership. We'll repost this and have everybody be able to, get as much as they would like from learning more about Nichefire and what Khalil is doing and how you guys are reshaping understanding consumer listening so brands can understand how customers are moving at the speed of culture. So pleasure to have you. Of course, look forward to working with you more, and see you soon, man.
Thanks, Rob.
All right. Hold on one second.